Another top 10 showdown in the books, another Ohio State win on the back of an incredible defensive performance. The 40-year vet Tim May was there to see it all. Andy Backstrom was there to see it all. Me, Spencer Holbrook, I was there to see it all. Fellas, we are now standing in a little bit of rain. It may start raining. We may have to move this video and maybe cut it in half, but that's okay because we're still on the field in the aftermath of Ohio State 20, Penn State 12 in a game that was not even as close as that final score indicated. The Buckeyes were up 20-6 up until 29 seconds to go when Penn State finally found a way into the end zone. Tim, first thoughts from a dominant defensive performance that had a little bit of offense sprinkled in for the Buckeyes.
Well, you heard me ask JT Tuimoloau. I mean, did it feel like a heavyweight fight? I asked Marvin Harrison Jr. the same thing. Yes, absolutely it did. It had all the earmarks. Guys just throwing punches. I mean, figuratively. Maybe literally a couple of times, but guys just throwing punches. This team's throwing punches, taking some chances. Ohio State opting not to kick a field goal and going for it on 4th and goal at the 2-yard line. I didn't understand that. That's something for another day. But it is so unbelievable to me in games like this sometimes where all of a sudden Ohio State's looking for a way to put this game away. Put 3 wide receivers to the left side. Marvin Harrison Jr., the best receiver in college football, to the right. He runs a simple drag route. Kyle McCord hits him in dead stride. He cuts it up and gets a block from Carnell Tate near the goal line. Touchdown, clinches the game, 19-yard play. It looks so damn easy, but it was so hard to get to that point for this football team because these were 2 damn good defenses going at each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the JT stuff is crazy to me because it wasn't just the sack at the end of the game. It wasn't just the deflection at the end of the game. Earlier on, he was making an impact. He had a 3rd and 1 he stopped with Josh Proctor.
Yeah.
That was also a great stop by him. And then even before that, there was a screen pass he snuffed out, which he's done all season. So he's stepping up big time. I feel like ever since the Western Kentucky game, JT Tuimoloau is playing like the defensive end everyone thought he could be at Ohio State.
Yeah, I think James Franklin would love to see JT Tuimoloau leave for the draft.
He might be up there instead of Roger Goodell, congratulating him on becoming a first-round pick. Because I think
big body hug.
I think JT Tuimoloau could have sat out every game, played the 2 games against Olu Fashanu and the Penn State offensive line, and been a first-round pick. Fellas, it's crazy. I'm going to read you guys a couple of stats because this is where I think the game was decided. Penn State was 1 of 16 on 3rd down. The 1 came with 1 minute to go. Penn State was 2 of 19 on 3rd and 4th down. If you combine the 2, those 2 both came in the final minute of this game.
Yeah.
Drew Aller had 191 yards. Almost all of those in the second half came on the final drive of the game. Penn State, up until that final drive, had 16 total yards in the second half until the final drive when Ryan Day said it was inexcusable. Ohio State should not have been out there, and they should have milked the clock away earlier in the 4th quarter to not give Penn State that chance and then the onside kick. But here's the deal, guys.
Carnell Tate, by the way, catching the onside kick.
Yeah, just a freshman making plays.
That's huge.
You had Jermaine Matthews out there making plays. You had JT Tuimoloau being at his best. You had Tommy Eichenberg, Steele Chambers, and Cody Simon playing at the level we expect of them, not the level they've been playing the last few weeks. Hold on a second, Tim.
Okay, you're going to put my man in there. Go ahead.
You had Josh Proctor making a ton of plays. This defense, and I put it on Twitter, I'm going to have a column about it on LettermenRow.com here in the next couple hours. This defense can win Ohio State a national championship. The offense is still a work in progress, but while this offense is coming along, while Kyle McCord finds his footing early in these games, and while they're trying to get the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr., the defense lets them operate in a way where they can have those issues in the first half. They can go through slow stretches because this defense eliminates all of the concern that you have.
Yeah.
That is a powerful drug for this team, and this team knows that it cannot waste this defense.
We're talking semantics here, of course. I guess a defense could win you a national championship if it scored touchdowns every game like Ohio State's done a few times. The main thing is Ohio State has a defense that can put it in position to win a national championship.
Yes.
Much more so than last year when they almost stole one. Are you kidding me? They were that close to stealing one. But it's night and day, the competence and the confidence with which this defense is playing. And you look up, like you said, Jermaine Matthews, a freshman. This time a year ago was in Cincinnati doing something, right?
Playing high school football at a high level, was a 5-star prospect.
He's out there playing so competently and sometimes over the top. It was amazing. It kind of reminded me of last year when we talked about this this week when those 2 freshmen started against Wisconsin at the cornerback spots. But I'm telling you, Jordan Hancock had a hell of a game today.
Yep.
And so did Davison Igbinosun. So the cornerbacks are coming through. The safety room is coming through. And the defensive line game. Yeah, Tyleik Williams didn't have gaudy stats today, but he was getting after it on every play. I was zeroing in on him a lot because, of course, I picked him to be the difference in the game, Whether he was or not, who knows?
Played a big part in it, Tim.
But JT Tuimoloau definitely took that role, I think, or that award. But the bottom line is they're playing so much more confidently about what the other guy next to them is doing. That's what really stands out about this defense right now.
Marvin Harrison Jr., we need to talk more about him just because that was an incredible performance.
Oh, yeah.
11 catches, which is a single game
Go ahead.
career high.
Go ahead, Andy.
I said
just
on
say
my
it.
bold prediction that he'd have 10 or more catches. He did, and he had that touchdown, which really sealed the deal in that part of the end zone that Tim already talked about with Carnell Tate's block.
Yeah,
so
came right by us right here.
There's a lot of talk right now after this game about how Marvin Harrison Jr. probably shouldn't have been left off the midseason All-American
There ought to be
list.
a lot of talk about
There's
it.
also potential rumbling of do you consider someone like this for the Heisman Trophy, considering what he does and the impact he has? I also thought Cade Stover was extremely impactful today. He only had 4 catches for 70 yards, but one of them he completely mossed the linebacker, and he's just time and time again proving to be a valuable receiver. He's really the number 2 target right now for this football team. Kyle McCord, I'll just get to for a little bit too, because I think a lot of people will be hard on him for this performance. He started 5 of 5, then he went 1 of his next 7.
Yeah, he
finished
got way off in that realm, in that area of the game.
Right. Yeah. Middle part of the game, he was very inaccurate, and I think he knows that, and you can kind of see that on his face after the game. He's a very composed guy. Ultimately, he's talking about this was a win, and he's a leader of this team. He was able to manage the game enough to get them the win, but he knows they're so close. When he talks about the offense, he's like, we are just a few steps away. Sometimes it's me, sometimes it's the offensive line, sometimes it's the wide receivers. We are so close from this thing really taking off, and I think that's interesting because as well as the defense is playing, if you can piece together the offense that people are expecting of Ohio State, then you don't even need your defense.
We're talking about their fall off offensively. It's not really a fall off because they still delivered when they needed to deliver.
Right.
Today, 3 weeks ago at Notre Dame, that was huge. When they really needed the plays, they got them done. And those are 2 really good football teams, as opposed to badminton teams. Those are 2 really good football teams. And I just think Ohio State's. You heard me facetiously ask Ryan, "Did y'all prove your toughness again?" Today. Dude, this was a big time heavyweight match, and Ohio State was more than ready for it.
Well, here's the thing, Tim. I didn't mean to keep just
okay.
waiting to talk.
No, I like you, man.
There is not a secondary on the schedule unless Ohio State gets to the Big Ten championship game and plays Iowa.
Yeah.
With Cooper DeJean.
I know where you're going. Yeah.
There is not a secondary better than they will see that they saw in this stadium a couple hours ago.
I agree.
There's not a secondary on the schedule that's better. Michigan has a very good secondary. It is not Kalen King and Johnny Dixon and the guys back there that Penn State has. There is not a better pass rush than these offensive linemen who we have dogged all year, and I will be the first to say that we have dogged them all year. And for the most part, Kyle McCord double clutches because there was defensive holding. It gets called. He gets a strip sack for a touchdown. But guess what? He only double clutched because there was defensive holding.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think Penn State had 2 sacks. Ohio State neutralized the Penn State pass rush. And on that touchdown that sealed the game, Kyle McCord had 5 seconds to throw. Yeah. Marvin Harrison Jr. slow played a drag route and still had enough time to get entirely across the field, break wide open. Kyle McCord sits back there, pats the ball 9 times and yells 10 Mississippi, and then throws it to him. Yeah. Those are the progressions that you have to see from Kyle McCord. Yeah. Those are the moments that you have to see from Marvin Harrison Jr. that take this from, okay, the defense is ready to do this, the offense needs to be, to, hey, maybe some of the stuff that we saw from the offense today, you got to finish drives, but maybe some of the stuff we saw from the offense today is showing us this team can get it done when it needs to. Yeah. And the next time it's going to need to, in a true sense, it's obviously got to get through a few more, is in late November in Ann Arbor.
Monday we're going to nitpick some of the game a little bit just because some of the play calls, I just, you scratch your head about. Not kicking the field goal there on 4th and 2 at the goal line, not 4th and 1, 4th and 2, and then running a wide screen, a little bubble, wide bubble. Carnell Tate gets tackled for what, a 1-yard loss or for no gain. Didn't like that, never will like that. When you got a chance to put 3 points on the board. We went ad nauseum about that. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to change my mind or my opinion on that. I talked with Urban Meyer and I talked about it, and he said, sometimes you got to be bold. I go, okay. I'm just paraphrasing what he said. But the bottom line is, it's stunning that the number one wide receiver in the country, as I said a while ago, on what turned out to be the play of the game, which was the touchdown,
Yeah.
breaks wide open on a Jackson Smith and Jigba homage drag route.
Yeah.
That is stunning to me. And just when you think that defense has got it figured out, they give up one of Ohio State's bread and butter plays, which I'm not sure Ohio State even ran that all day. Did they until then?
A couple of times, just a couple.
But I don't remember. I remember Marvin being involved on a cross and things like that. But I don't remember. They definitely didn't run it with Marvin, did they? Maybe I'm wrong. But my point is,
maybe just once, but it wasn't often.
My point is, that's what it comes down to. Do you make that play or not? And Ohio State made that play. And James Franklin was bemoaning this several years ago about the difference between great and elite. And those are the kind of things he's talking about. That kind of play. JT Tuimoloau just going, I'm going to the quarterback on this play, and going around and getting a sack.
Even the young wave, Tim. Jermaine Matthews Jr. I believe Kenyatta Jackson had a sack in the fourth quarter, a half a sack with JT Tuimoloau, party at the quarterback's feet.
He did.
Some of these younger guys, Davis Igbinosun, who is a younger guy, we have to remind you, Jordan Hancock, experience-wise, is a younger guy. That is the difference still to this day from 5-6 years ago, from great and elite. This was an elite performance by the Ohio State defense, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as much as we talk about Kyle McCord maybe could have been a little bit better today, Drew Aller was far worse, and that's because this Ohio State defensive line made its day really, really difficult. And so just when you need a little bit of perspective, like look at another 5-star quarterback on the other side, was highly touted. A lot was said coming into this game, who would outplay the other. Kyle McCord outplayed him. I mean, the bar was pretty low because of the way this Ohio State defense played. But Drew Aller had a really hard time today. Those running backs had a hard time after a pretty good start, I would say, to the day. Ohio State locked it up on the rush defense side of the things, and I think just a couple of notes too about the injuries going into this game. There was a lot talked about Denzel Burke. We've talked about Jermaine Matthews stepping up. There was a lot talked about Emeka Egbuka. He ultimately couldn't play in this game.
We saw him warming up and doing things, but it didn't look 100%.
So that was Xavier Johnson again stepping up, and he didn't have any of those wow plays, but he's still part of that offense. And then also you have Travion Henderson seemingly not being able to play again. And the running back situation is still the question mark. And again, we'll talk more about this on Monday, but it was something that Ryan Day mentioned in his post-game press conference, was that the last step we kind of need for this offense to take off is we need to be more explosive in the running game. And it's a broken record, right? They've been talking about that for all season. Maya Williams was the bell cow today for the first time this season, 24 carries after Chip Trayanum got the start. And still ineffectiveness and questions about Dallin Hayden and why is he not playing. And so we're kind of talking about the same things we were a couple weeks ago as well.
To that note, when you talk about those running backs...
Wait a minute. They still have 2 bullets in Dallin Hayden's gun.
Yes.
And what we're looking at, real quick, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
You're good.
What we're looking at is clearly the running back room is kind of in the same little washing machine it was in this time a year ago.
Reminds me of
guys getting banged up and not being 100% and not being able to go. Travion Henderson, we watched him warm up. I thought he looked pretty decent in warm-ups, but he wasn't cleared to go, and Chip Trayanum, like you said, wasn't 100%. Didn't look like it, in my opinion. I thought he ran hard, played hard, and Mayan Williams, I thought, played really hard until he started running that wide stuff, which I don't get. But that's another story. That's for Monday.
Tim,
but you got to save. I'm as down as anybody else is. Why didn't Dallin Hayden play today? This is the one of your 2 games that you got to win. Well, you got to win them all, but these are the 2. The next one's coming up at the end of November. So you saved a bullet there with Dallin Hayden, which could also include the Big Ten Championship game, which also could include a playoff 2 games.
On the other side, with the running backs, you talked about Penn State's running backs. Nick Singleton, 2 carries in the first half that went for 46 yards. He had 7 carries otherwise for 2 yards. He had a 20-yard run to start a drive, get Penn State in field goal range. He had a 26-yard run after that to put them deeper into field goal range. Ohio State's defense buckled down, and then on the other 7 carries he had in the game, he had 2 yards. Drew Aller, 18 of 42. At one point in the fourth quarter, deep in the fourth quarter, before they really started chucking it around, he was 10 of 30.
Yeah.
10 of 30. And that's a lot because he was, I don't want to disparage, he was seeing ghosts, I would say. He was shook back there.
He was shooken?
Yeah, he was.
like that,
he was not okay.
Isn't it amazing?
But also on the Ohio State defense to get it done there.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how I don't know what it is about Ohio State. I think people like to beat Ohio State, and I've been covering this team for 40 years, and I've seen this a lot. How you're almost sold. This was a very good defense Ohio State went against today.
Mm-hmm.
This was an average offense that Ohio State went against today.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I'm talking about from a personnel standpoint. They didn't have the big guy, those big guys at wide receiver, the running backs. Like you said, they're going to grow on, like Nick Singleton had a couple of 3 runs in a row. It's funny how that goes, right? Mm-hmm. And then it goes away. But this, especially the national media, is so big on sometimes overselling Ohio State's opponent. I thought the national media, because I listened to a lot of stuff through the week, how they were just talking about this maybe being the best Penn State team in decades or whatever, or definitely in the James Franklin era. No, it's not. No, it
I don't
wasn't.
think so.
It wasn't offensively. Defensively, it's damn good. The reason I'm saying that is, it's just, what does Ohio State really have to do to kind of get your attention?
Closing thoughts, Andy?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, going into this game, I was like, this feels like Notre Dame. It felt like Notre Dame in terms of the Penn State offense. They have the tight ends, they have a receiver, and they have the running backs, and that was the way the game went.
Yeah.
Closing thoughts, though, again, like, statement win for this program. You're 7-0. You have 2 top 10 wins at this point. You're staring at that final game in Ann Arbor. You still have to get there, of course, and we can't overlook next week's trip to Madison. That's a hard place to play.
Yes.
No matter how good or bad Wisconsin is, they're going to get up for that game. So that's still something that's on the schedule. You got to win all the games up until that Michigan game. You got to win that one too if you're trying to go to the Big Ten championship game and win that. So, but overall, statement win, I think, for this program, this defense at this point. There was a lot said talking about the national media about this Ohio State defense and what they were like this week. I read things that said this secondary was average as hell. An opposing coach had said that anonymously. There was other things said just about, the linebackers and maybe just not being as up to par as they were last year. This defense, in all 3 levels, was excellent, top tier. You could argue maybe the best in the country.
Yeah.
And I think that was the statement made today.
Absolutely. Ohio State makes a statement in the horseshoe with a 20-12. I hate saying 12. It was really 20-6. That last drive was just weird. But it's 20-12. That's what it was.
They still drove down, got a touchdown, and were kicking an onside kick with the jeopardy there of getting the ball and going down and scoring and getting 2 points.
Yeah, and Ryan Day's going to be really angry that he let that happen. He was in the postgame. Yeah. If there was one thing he was angry about.
Because the game was still in jeopardy at that.
Yeah. Ohio State, though, top 10 win number 2. Ohio State's going to get a 3rd top 10 game. They're going to get a crack at Michigan. Before that, though, they've got 3 or 4 games here that they have to win to get to that moment.
If they don't get their signals crossed.
They've cleared the first hurdle. That's Notre Dame. They cleared the second hurdle. This season is split up into 3. They cleared the second hurdle now. They're 7-0 after a 20-12 win over number 7 Penn State in the Horseshoe on Saturday. This place was absolutely rocking. One of the loudest I've ever heard it.
Yes.
The 40-year vet Tim May agrees. Andy Backstrom agrees. We'll be in here Monday when it's dead silent except for all of those things that are happening in here Mondays, because that's what happens on the Monday after Ohio State 20, Penn State 12. Make sure to catch that later after the weekend. For now, we're going to go get to work covering this team where we do it all year round at lettermenrow.com. 50% off sale, the big game sale. The Buckeyes have won the big game sale. 50% off lettermenrow.com. Go get that sale. We'll see you guys back in the Horseshoe on Monday.